गातुं यज्ञाय गातुं यज्ञपतये दैवी स्वस्तिरस्तु नः स्वस्तिर्मानुषेभ्यः ऊर्ध्वं जिगातु भेषजं शन्नो अस्तु द्विपदे शं चतुष्पदे ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ सहस्रशीर्षा पुरुषः सहस्राक्षः सहस्रपात् स भूमिं विश्वतो वृत्वा अत्यतिष्ठद्दशाङ्गुलं पुरुष ये वेदगं सर्वम् उतामृतत्वस्येषानः यदन्नेनातिरोहति एतावानस्य महिमा अतो ज्यायागस्य पूरुषः पादोऽस्य विश्वा भूतानि त्रिपादस्यामृतं दिवि त्रिपादोर्ध्वोदयित्पुरुषः पादोऽस्येहा भवात् पुनः ततो विश्वं व्यक्रामत शासनानशने अभि तस्माद् विराडजायत विराजो अधिपूरुषः स जातो अत्यरिच्यत पश्यात् भूमिमथो पुरः यत्पुरुषेण हविषा देवा यज्ञमतन्वत वसन्तो अस्यासीदाज्यं ग्रीष्मयेद्मः शरद्धविः सप्तास्यासन् परिधयः त्रिसप्तः समिधः कृताः देवा यद्यज्ञं तन्वानाः अबध्नन् पुरुषं पशुं तं यज्ञं बर्हिषि प्रोक्षन् पुरुषं जातमग्रतः तेन देवा अयजन्त साध्या ऋषयश्च ये तस्माद्यज्ञात् सर्वहुतः संभृतं वृषदाज्यं पशुगस्तागश्चक्रे वायव्यान् आरण्यान् ग्राम्याश्च ये तस्माद्यज्ञात् सर्वहुतः रजः सामानि जग्निरे छन्दागंसि जग्निरे तस्मात् यजुस्तस्मादजायत दश्वा अजायन्त ये केचोभयादतः गावो हजग्निरे तस्माज्जाता अजावयः यत्पुरुषं व्यददुः कथिता व्यकल्पयन् मुखं किमस्य कौ बाहु कावूरूपादा उच्येते ब्राह्मणोऽस्य मुखमासीत् बाहुराजन्यः कृतः ऊरू तदस्य यद्वैश्यः पद्भ्यागं शूद्रो अजायत चन्द्रमा मनसो जातः चक्षुः सूर्यो अजायत मुखादिन्द्रश्चाग्निश्च प्राणाद्वायुरजायत नाभ्या आसीदन्तरिक्षं शीर्ष्णोद्यौ समवर्तत पद्भ्यां भूमिर्दिशश्रोत्रात् तथा लोकागम् अकल्पयन् वेदाहमेतं पुरुषं महान्तम् आदित्यवर्णं तमसस्तु पारे सर्वाणि रूपाणि विचित्य धीरः नामानि कृत्वाभिवदन्यदास्ते धाता पुरस्ताद्यमुदा जहार शक्रः प्रविद्वान् प्रदिशश्च तस्रः तमेवं विद्वानमृत इह भवति नान्यः पन्था अयनाय विद्यते यज्ञेन यज्ञमयजन्त देवाः तानि धर्माणि प्रथमान्यासन् ते हनाकं महिमानः सचन्ते यत्र पूर्वे साध्याः सन्ति देवाः अद्भ्यः सम्भूतः पृथिव्यैरसाच्च विश्वकर्मणः समवर्तताधि तस्य त्वष्टा विदधद्रूपमेति तत्पुरुषस्य विश्वमाजानमग्रे वेदाहमेतं पुरुषं महान्तम् आदित्यवर्णं तमसः परस्तात् तमेवं विद्वानमृत इह भवति नान्यः पन्था विद्यते यनाय प्रजापतिश्चरति गर्भे अन्तः अजायमानो बहुधा विजायते तस्य धीराः परिजानन्ति योनिम् मरीचीनां पदमिच्छन्ति वेधसः यो देवेभ्य आतपति यो देवानां पुरोहितः पूर्वो यो देवेभ्यो जातः नमो रुचाय ब्राह्मये रचं ब्राह्मं जनयन्तः देवा अग्रे तदब्रुवन् यस्त्वैवं ब्राह्मणो विद्यात् तस्य देवा असन्वशे ह्रीश्च ते लक्ष्मीश्च पत्न्यो अहोरात्रे पार्श्वे नक्षत्राणि रूपम् अश्विनौ व्यात्तम् इष्टं मनीषान अमुं मनीषान सर्वं मनीषान ओम शांति शांति शांति। ओम सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांतिः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। Of that Sarvahuta Yajna performed, the total sacrifice Yajna performed, first were born Sambratam Prashadajyam Pashugastagas Chakre Vayavyan Aranyan Gramyaschaye. Different kinds of creatures, that which could be domesticated, that would wild, were born. Also from this total sacrifice yajna, what was born is continued in the 10th mantra, which says Tasmad yajnat sarvahutaha rajasamani jagnire chandagamsi jagnire tasmat yajustasmad ajayata. What was born? Tasmat yajnat sarvahutaha. Of the total sacrifice yajna called Sarvahuta Yajna, Ruchaha Samani Jagnire Chandagamsi Jagnire Tasmat Yajus Tasmat Ajayata. The mantras of the Rig Veda the mantras of the Sama Veda and mantras of the Yajur Veda were born. Along with that were also born the meters in which, the grammar in which the whole language could be spoken. Earlier, Sanskrit had, in the Vedic literature, Sanskrit has 9 different grammars. Nava Vyakarana. My thing was, poor people, if Panini's grammar itself, you need to master it in 8 years. 9 grammars to master, how much more effort would have been? And then of course, comparison between each grammar, and that's a huge segment. That is why wherever Adi Shankaracharya ji finds the older grammar, he just uses it saying Chandasam iti etat. Chandasam, it is the old Sanskrit which is used, that which doesn't come under the purview of Paninian grammar. So I don't try to change or mend that statement there. He leaves it there. There is one mention of a great individual who was recognized as the knower of all these 9 grammars, Chandasa. And that happens to be Hanumanji. And Hanumanji goes in the form of a Vatu, a Brahmana, to check who was Rama and Lakshmana. Because they were all in the kind of dress which a monk would wear, a sannyasi would wear. But then a sannyasi has got nothing to do with weapons and arms and ammunition that they were carrying. So missiles, missile launcher, different kinds of arms and ammunition that were tied down to them and they were carrying, which is not likely for a sadhu or a sannyasi to carry. Sugriva was already panic stricken. The moment anything of this kind happens, he says, Chalo bhage, let's run. Vali has sent somebody to kill me. So he says, wait here. Until I give you a signal, don't even move from here. So he comes down, checks on Rama. One good thing about Lakshmana ji is as long as somebody bothering him, he doesn't get angry. Yes, he comes to notice that somebody would be bothering Rama, then he gets angry. So Lakshmana ji looks at Sri Rama, who is already in search of Sita ji. And there comes this Vatu with continuous questions. आप कहाँ से आ रहे हो, क्यों आ रहे हो, किधर जा रहे हो, कब तक जाओगे? Nice dress. There are such structured statements that Hanumanji asks. So when Lakshmana is getting irritated, Ramji takes him aside. Time out. So he takes him outside, just aside, and then tells, hey, he is not just an ordinary person talking to us. The way he has constructed his statements, it very clearly indicates that he is a master of all 9 Vyakaranas. So he must be a very learned scholar. Let's have patience in finding out what he has to offer. Meaning 9 Vyakaranas were a part of that old system of Sanskrit. They were also born. Now here there is a certain difference of opinion. That when you look at the sequence of what were born, the grammar is born, Rig Veda is born, Sama Veda is born, Yajur Veda is born. But what happened to the Atharva Veda? Atharva Veda was not born. No. We talk of 4 Vedas, right? So should I confuse you or convince you? There is both options here. We have 4 Vedas of Rig, Yajur, Sama, Atharva Vedas. Of these, 3 are traditionally known to be as the main Veda. Atharva Veda is the collection which was indicated after Vedavyasji's effort of compiling them into a book format. So you could consider Atharva Veda as a miscellaneous Veda. So people normally did not consider it as a part of Veda, but with the efforts of Veda Vyasji, see, these three Vedas were followed between Ganga and Sindhu. The Punya Bhumi, between these two rivers, people used to follow these three Vedas. But there was one Jabal Rishi who was to the other side, my directions are pretty poor, western side of the Sindhu Nadi, who is to follow this particular system of Atharva Veda. So Veda Vyasi puts an effort in learning it from him and then compiling it as the fourth segment of our Vedic literature. So we don't find it as a separate segment called Atharva Veda, but which should have been a part of this three Vedas, which further got segregated as the Atharva Veda. The reason that the Orthodox people do not accept Atharva Veda as a part of the main Vedic stream is because of the Vama Marga in it. Vama Marga, the left wing, which includes things like Tantra, Yantra, Mantra, and occult uses. So they were considered not a part of this, but Veda Vyasi brings them back into the fold. So that is the reason we don't find a mention of it here. So Ruchas Samani Jagnire, Chandagam Sijagnire Tasmat, Yajus Tasmat Ajayata. The mantras of the Rig Veda are called the Rik. The Riks doesn't sound good. They are called Rik. The mantras of the Rig Veda are called the Rik. And the Sama Veda mantras are called the Sama. And the Yajurveda mantras are called the Yajus. So that is why we find Rik, Yajus, Sama. Jagnire. They were born. After this, what was born? From that total sacrificial fire is explained in the 11th mantra. Tasmadashva ajayanta yeke chobhayadataha gavo hajagnire tasmat jata ajavayaha. Tasmad ashva ajayanta. Ashva ajayanta. Of the domesticated animals, there are a few which are mentioned here. Ashva ajayanta. Horses were born. Ekecha ubhayadataha. This is a very different description of animals. And these animals which had the double layer of teeth. Ubhayadataha. Ubhayadataha, the upper and the lower teeth formation, which were further domesticated, like the horses. Ajavayaha, and the goat. Gavaha, the cows and buffaloes and such kind of animals were domesticated. They were also born, meaning all different varieties of creatures were created. Meaning they were in the samashti form, they were about to be mass produced as though in this creation. According to the jivas who were ready to take different forms from the earlier kalpa, earlier period of time, to take birth as different forms, different formats of creation. Now here the Rishi himself asks a question. He asks a question to himself saying, what are the other things that would have been born from this Virata Purusha? So that question format is asked in the 12th mantra, which is said, Yat Purusham Vyadaduhu Kadita Vyakalpayan mukham kimasya kau bahu ka buru pada uchyete. When the gods that meditated upon, now this total sacrifice yajna was performed as what? Was it a dravya yajna, that which was done in a physical format? No, it was done as a mental yajna, wherein they had meditated upon that Virata Purusha and sacrificed different things in that total sacrifice. So when the gods meditated upon that Virata Purusha, Yat Purusham Vyadaduhu, meditated upon that Purusha, Kathita Vyakalpayan, in what different ways did they conceive that Virata Purusha to be? In their concept or in their visualization, Mukham Kimasya, what was the face? Kau Bahu, what was his arms, shoulders? Ka Uru, Uru is the thigh and the lower regions. Ka Pada Uchyete, how did they visualize that Virata Purusha's legs, the divine forms of the legs? This is being explained. Now here, the Rishi need not have asked the questions. He could have directly proceeded in trying to explain what was created. But as a sequence of continuity, sometimes the questions are asked, they are not actually questions, they are objections. Can you visualize what they would have visualized? So that he was trying to instigate the seekers' minds in trying to imagine, trying to visualize what they could have visualized in that Virata Purusha. Now in this Virata Purusha, there are always two standpoints to be understood in understanding this Purusha Sukta. Now both standpoints are valid. One is the immanent, the other one is the transcendental. Most of us can very easily grasp the concept of the immanent form or immanent format of that Supreme. Or the Vyashti, which is at the individual level, as a seeker to understand this particular mantra is very easy. The second format is of the transcendental or of the samashti, which becomes the difficult part of our understanding. The reason being, transcendental is not something which we have experienced. Even if I say even a simple word like God, we keep using that word, right? Oh my God. That God word is used so many times in so many different ways. Sometimes because of so much of use, we lose the depth of the words. But anyway, God is one word that we use. Now when we say God, what do we exactly mean by that word God? For most of the majority of the instances, whenever we refer to something like God, it is some supernatural or very powerful entity which is beyond the concept of my understanding and I attribute that supreme energy or source as God. How I worship that God, which format I worship that God is immaterial. You can worship that God in any format you want. Whether you want to worship in Rama, Krishna, Ganesha, Shiva, Allah, Jesus, or whatever format that you want to worship. There are different forms. There is one, and whenever we use the word God, it means something not tangible, immediately understandable to my understanding. It's beyond. Something which is way beyond my grasp. This is what we indicate whenever we use God. Even that exclamation, oh my God. What do you mean there? I don't believe it as I don't really believe that there is God. Because that is not something which is a part of my immediate experience. And whenever we talk of this concept of God, have you seen God? There is a big question mark. Yes, no, all right, can't decide. It's not a part of our immediate experience. Yes, we have been told that this kind of different formats of gods are to be worshipped as God, so we accept it. Beyond that, there is no personal immediate experience to prove that that is God. So the transcendental concept of that Supreme is always a subtler realm because it has not been experienced earlier. And as Ramana Maharshi puts it, he says, if you have understood what is that concept of God, you still don't require God because it is understood as you. In his discussions, he used to have conversations with people whenever they used to come and ask questions. So in his one of these conversations, he says, God, you don't need, he says to one of the students. He says, why? Because as long as you don't know, it is not an immediate experience, it is just a intellectual visualization. So you don't need. Once you experience it, you still don't need it because the experience of that God is as your own self. Which makes quite sense. But then there were students like Vivekananda who approached Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, his master, and he had asked this question enough number of times to enough number of people, so much that people had recognized Vivekananda. Oh, he's coming. He always finds this amusing to ask people, have you seen God? If there is a congregation of people, if Vivekananda was belonging to our time, and he knew there was some Chinmaya mission and there was this kind of satsanga happening, he would come and then sit and patiently listen and then finally ask one question. Have you seen God? You talk of God, you talk of different things, you do so many things. Have you seen God? And then there were people even like elder brother of Rabindranath Tagore himself, and then all these Arya Samajis, and he did not spare anyone. He used to ask each and every one of them. So when he approached Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, who was in his trance-like state, did not answer for quite some time, and then when he recognized that there was somebody asking a question, he said, yes, can you repeat the question? He said, have you seen God? And the first time with kind of confidence that Ramakrishna Paramahamsa said, yeah. It's like, matter of fact, yes. And Vivekananda had heard the answers like, trying to beat around the bush and not give direct answers. He was like shocked for a while because he was not expecting somebody to give an answer. Yes, I have seen God. He was like, his mind stopped, paused for a long time there. He said, can you show it to me? Whoever that God is. And whenever you are ready, I'll show it. No, I want to see it right now. If you see it, I also should be able to see it. And for Ramakrishna takes him to that temple wherein he has conversations with that form of God. He says, no, talk. I talk to her, you talk to her too. He says, but I can't. So ask her to show you her form. I have shown you God. Now it is for you to tune up to her. This concept of God, it is mystical. And there are a lot of misunderstandings which we proclaim as our myth. And then there are, as a bottom line, that is something which is not a part of your intellectual comprehension. There's a flashlight. What is the source for that flashlight to give us that light? Let me put that question precisely. What is the source for that bulb in the flashlight to give us light? Why are you guys? Either you are in Vivekananda state or in Sushupti state. Some kind of chemical reaction in the form of the batteries which give light through the bulb in the flashlight. If that bulb were to find out, let me check who is this source that is providing so much of energy for me to illumine. The moment the bulb turns, do you think the bulb has its glow? Bulb jala ki nahi? Whenever the intellect which takes complete support of that supreme within, turns around to conceptualize that supreme within the realms of the intellect meaning inert thought, that is intellect. All that which we read, all that which we accumulate as knowledge, intellectual grasp, he is grasped in which form? Nothing but the thought. That is where is the famous experiment of Shvetaketu, wherein he tells his father, I have learned everything. With that kind of an arrogance, that I know everything now. All that which was supposed to be known is known by me. So the father says, don't eat anything for next 15 days. Just only drink water. As long as you are drinking water, your prana is still there. Next 15 days, don't eat anything. But though he was arrogant, he was obedient too. I have put myself in that position of Shvetaketu many times. If somebody says, "Jao, tum mat khao, main to khane wala hu." Shvetaketu was obedient. He says, "Okay, let me do that experiment." And after 15 days, he says, his father calls him and says, "Now you recall all that knowledge that you are claiming you know everything." And he has a hard time to remember all this because his memory was failing. He couldn't remember anything because it was not properly fed in. All this knowledge that we try to conceptualize and form and grasp is nothing but at the thought form. That which is enlivening the thought to exist even cannot become the concept of the thought. Because the thought is very limited and cannot grasp the source. Okay, this is the technical level. Now at the philosophical level, I, the consciousness, illumines the thought. The thought per se does not have the capacity to illumine me, the consciousness. Grasp this thought very clearly. Because based on this is what we are going to say. That supreme is beyond the grasp of intellect. So grasp this thought. Okay. I, the consciousness, illumines the thought. There are so many different varieties of thoughts that keep going. Thought of knowledge, thought of anger, thought of depression, thought of happiness, thought of this, thought of that, thought of nothing, everything is a thought. I, the conscious entity, awareness, illumines that thought, cognize that thought. Thoughts per se do not have the capacity to cognize me, the consciousness, or illumine the consciousness through the thought. something like this. I cognize this lectern in front of me. Does this lectern recognize me? There is no catch in this. I am talking it from a very mundane level. Probably, I don't know. Come on, let's come to the reality level. Yeah, which reality? Reality at which we are, whatever reality that is. I cognize the existence of this lectern. Can the lectern have the same cognition of me, the consciousness? Okay, this question is not from the standpoint of Hiranyakashipu asking Prahalada. Just to save my skin. What if somebody says praise here and somebody tears open from here and then tears my tummy up? That will be a very pathetic situation. Well, that's another way to get nearer to God, if that be true. So this is an inert thing which cannot cognize my presence, or your presence, or anybody's presence. It just is put and it just is. Similarly, the thought exists only when I, the consciousness, plug in to that thought to exist. I provide energy to that thought to exist. What happens if I take out water from this? Are they real flowers? Okay. You just had to make sure. After having asked the question, you say, they are not real. Now what will happen if I take out the water from this vase? What will happen to those flowers? They will die. They will dry up completely. Similarly, me, the consciousness, is the source, is the energy for the thought to move, even to exist even. When I take out my supply to that thought, what happens to that thought? It just dies, burns down to ashes. Now I know why Lord Shiva has so much of ashes around him. Any flying thought turns down to ashes and then he decorates himself. It is me, the source, which is enlivening the thought, without whose support the thought cannot exist. Now such a thought, which happens to be the intellectual grasp, can it have the capacity to conceptualize and have an experience through the thought, as a thought of that Supreme? It does not. So the transcendental becomes difficult to grasp through the intellect. Becomes confusingly difficult. Why confusing? Because it is almost there, you caught it but you didn't get it. Isn't that the experience of everyday lecture? पता नहीं, आप जो बोलते हैं तो सब ठीक लगता है, पर घर जाके सोचते हैं तो पता नहीं क्या हो जाता है. Transcendental can be experienced only as an immediate experience of the self. Immanent, which is quite spread out around us, which is quite evidently spread out around us, we can tune into that divinity level to experience that Supreme. That tuning in again is not because of the mind and intellect. It is in spite of the mind and intellect equipment. It is not that we are trying to tune our mind, feel that divinity. There is no feeling that divinity. In spite of the mind and intellect capacities, that you grow beyond them to tune into that divinity. That is when you are looking at the world without the lenses of your likes and dislikes, wants and don't wants. So the immanent aspect of it, or the individual level, understanding Purusha Sukta is easy. At the cosmic level or the samashti level, to understand the transcendental becomes difficult because it is not a part of the intellectual grasp. So the sage here, sage Narayana, who was the one who envisioned this particular mantra, asked the question, Ka Uru Pada Uchyete, and then answers himself. He says, the next mantra, Brahmano-osya mukhamasit bahu rajanya krataha uru tadasya yadvaishyah padbhyagam shudro ajayata. Whenever we used to chant in the ashram this particular part of Purusha Sukta, it was like fun. It all started when one day one of these two brahmacharis were having some argument, a friendly argument, and then while chanting, in the evening we used to chant the whole of Vedic mantras every day as a practice. So one day he looks at the other brahmachariji and says, Padbhyam shudro ajayata. He looks at shows at his feet. Padbhyam shudro ajayata. From my feet are born you the Shudra. It became a fun kind of a thing afterwards. From that Virata Purusha, that supreme cosmic level, Brahmanaha asya mukham asit. Brahmanaha, the educated, literate, is not just proficient but also efficient in that field. Both proficient and efficient in that particular field is called a Brahmana, who had a complete know-how of that particular field, whichever field that was recognized as a Brahmana in that field. Brahmana mukhamasit was the face of that supreme. Bahu rajanya krataha. Bahu rajanyaha. Bahu is the shoulders, arms. That is why arms and ammunition, army, it's all starting from here, arm. Bahu. Bahu is a shoulder. So that shoulder, a shoulder meaning between the shoulders, this whole chest area was recognized as the Kshatriya. Rajanyaha, Kshatriyas. Uru tadasya yadvaishyaha. Uru is anything above the knee, below the navel. That segment is Uru. Very casually translated becomes the thighs. So that area is the Vaishya. Vaishya, business. Those who are very good for trade and other kind of purposes. Padbhyam shudro ajayata. Below the knee to the feet, or the shudra. Now this has to be understood at two different levels. Again, not two levels, three levels. One at the cosmic level, one at the level of this world, how these four segregations function, and the third at our own individual level as a personal sadhana, what these four concepts mean. So let's start from the first, where we are. These four concepts are something that has to be inculcated in ourselves so that we grow to be a complete personality. If you look at the different creatures, the animals are known as Tiriyak. Tiriyak, the one who are on the four, running on the four, or moving on the four. Their kind of level of understanding or being is the head, the heart, the stomach, and the lower organs are all in one single straight line. Horizontal straight line. Whereas in the human beings, the head, the heart, the stomach, they are in a vertical sequence. Meaning at an individual level, what should take the highest priority with regards to myself? When you are driving a motorbike, which is the part which is protected the most? The most sensitive part is the head. You wear a helmet, and either in cold or in summer, wearing a helmet, you can break that word correctly. Helmet. You meet the hell then and there. It is so suffocating. Never mind. In spite of the suffocation, you need to wear it so that you have to protect the Uttama Anga. Why is it called Uttama Anga? For many reasons. Most of these sensory perceptions are here. Eyes, ear, nose, throat, taste, and the speech, and the huge mass of vacuum between the ears called the grey matter brain. That is why it is called the main CPU is here. That is why it is called Uttamanga. Then comes the heart, then comes the stomach, then are the other organs, lower below, in a sequence. So what should take the highest priority? The highest priority is the knowledge aspect. So an individual is a complete individual when they have all this Brahmanatva, Kshatriyatva, Vaishyatva and the Shudratva in that individual. Understand it from a totally different level. What does Brahmanatva mean? Based on each individual's potential, meaning we have certain talents within which are unique, which make us unique, which cannot be replicated. There can be somebody like you, there cannot be you, another replica. There can be some similarities, but it can't be same. Because you are individual, you are unique. Again, going back to my brand names. Brand names of these Versace, Gucci, Guess. And they proclaim that whatever dress or whatever kind of wear they make one unique model. They don't repeat it. It's not available out there in the market. This is tailor-made only for that customer. Cannot be replicated. It's unique. How many would they produce in a year? Few hundreds? Nobody in fashion business? Not that fashionable business, okay. A few hundreds, let us consider. Few hundreds, okay. And how do you, I mean, the customer, whoever buys it, how do they deal with that particular piece? It's not like ordinary one, and it's given a special treatment, taken care and maintained, and it's a totally different way to use it. Because it is one of its kind, it's unique. There was somebody who came from Switzerland and brought this chocolate. I said, Swami, this is such a unique chocolate. Nowhere in the world you can get it. I said that he must have had only one shop in Switzerland, and where would you get that kind of a chocolate elsewhere? Hey, exactly, Swamiji. He was still very, upbeat about it. He said, this is the only shop that is there in the whole world. And now, हमारे गली में नुक्कड़ में भी, in our streets back in India, there's only one shop that fellow has. That is also unique. See, whenever we talk of uniqueness, imagine Lord's creativity. Now let's talk only of human beings presently. What is the population? 6 billion plus. Okay. It is not a stagnant count. Why did I say 6 billion plus? As I am speaking, they are mass produced. And imagine, every third one out of that being born is in India or in China. World's 1/3 population there between those two countries. Ever growing. Our civics lecturer used to say, we Indians, we have never been on the top of anything. Best in anything. No sports, nothing. At least in population, let us beat the world. And we did come from the third level to the second level, right? First was China, second was Russia. Then were we. Now Russia is broken up into fragments, so we get the second spot. We are there. Almost breaking that. 6 billion unique pieces created. No two pieces, no two specimens, though looking like each other, but are way different from each other. And what is it that makes them so unique? Is their potentiality, is their talent, which is lurking within each individual. So Brahmana is the one, and this is such a beautiful process when understood, that all these kinds of patterns which are existing, your expression out into the world as an action should be to exhaust that existing pattern and clean the slate from within. So whatever is the potentiality from within when recognized, nurture that, be proficient and efficient in that particular trait which makes you unique. Instead of analyzing it, instead of focusing on it, instead of grasping what it is, we are like the sheep folk. The flock of sheep, they don't have a particular direction. That's why they need a shepherd. If the sheep has one particular sheep which is running in front, the rest of them run behind that one. Why? Simply. No particular reason. They simply run behind. If that one falls into a well, the first one, there is 40, 50 of them following. Not one will pause and wait. क्यों गिर रहे हैं? Why are we falling in? And even if there was one intelligent sheep with the crowd, the rest of them, अरे खड़ा क्यों है? चल ना. We'll pull along. What are you waiting for? Everybody is jumping. Come on, let's jump. No pausing, looking, watching. The sheep mentality. We tend to behave as a flock of animals. Everybody does it, we also do it. Why? Don't ask questions. There's something called uniqueness in each one of us. That potentiality has to be nurtured and brought out. That, when understood with clarity and brought out with perfect polish in that particular field. Like Gurudev puts it in a book called We Must. He says, it is not how many talents we have, but of the existing talents, how many have we become efficient in our execution. That is called Brahmanatva. Knowledge. Then comes Bahu Rajanya Kritaha. Bahu Rajanya Kritaha. You have been given this equipment so that you can protect yourself. You can take care of yourself. Protection is not just from somebody trying to hit you or something. Complete care of yourself. And that ability to take care of myself completely from all perspectives, independent of anybody, anything, any place. It is not that I keep waiting for somebody's support, somebody's help, somebody's help to uplift. मुझको भी जरा लिफ्ट करा दे. But help myself. That is what Bhagavad Gita also says in the 6th chapter. Uddharet atmana atmanam. Uplift yourself with your own self. By your own self, for your own self. Complete democracy. And what is the definition of democracy? For the people, by the people, of the people. For the self, by the self, of the self. And presently we are in the same state too. For the self, F-A-R. Far away from the self. Of the self, O-F-F. Way away from the self. I'm saying the self is not self-existent. So we buy things so that we think that we can support ourselves. Buy the self. Buy for the self. But instead, if I take a responsibility of my own individual care from all perspectives, become the Kshatriya. A Kshatriya is like the husband. What does the husband to do? Palana, Poshana, Rakshana. Nurturing, taking care and protection. Saha Bharta. Such one is a Bharta. Not Baigan ka Bharta. I'm talking about the Bharta in the Sanskrit term. So that is the Kshatriya. Uru tadasya yad Vaishyaha. Vaishyaha, you need to execute yourself well. Not a sloppy, sluggish mentality wherein keeps saying sorry, feeling guilty for everything, and then everything is like shattering into pieces, and then you keep gathering again, it keeps falling. A very untidy way of living. No. Gather yourself up so that you can execute well. You can manage well. It's after all, it's your life. You have to manage your life manage it efficiently. And it is not good enough that you are good. You have to present yourself good too. Like our Guruji used to say, what you dress and how you address should always matter. It cannot be in a very clumsy pattern wherein you feel sorry for later. But manage your life in such a way that you present yourself in the best possible way. That is managing your life. Padhyam shudro ajayata. Now, once you have done the first three, what takes the shape is an ugly format called a dense mass ego. To annihilate that, I said, inculcate Shudratva. Shudra, who is a Shudra? What is the technical definition of a Shudra? The one who serves. Remember, the one who serves alone deserves. Now, all these capacities understood, and you are a master of your own life, so that you can serve the world outside with the attitude of serving that Supreme alone. It's not like I have made my own self now. I have created all this. I don't care for anybody else. No. You get equipped with the first three steps so that you can serve better both yourself and the world in general. Atmano mokshaya jagat hitaya cha. You equip yourself so that you serve the world. And anybody who serves the world has learned to be humble. Humility is the key. With each level. The one who has absolute knowledge in a particular field, as the Subhashita says, Vidya vinayena shobhate. If you are perfectly aligned with that knowledge, it expresses out as humility. Once I had gone to the Southwestern Medical, and just as we were crossing the lobby area, it was a huge compound. So crossing across, there was this, as we have a habit here, that anybody coming across, you just say hi. So I was also introduced that he is from our temple or church. He is like somebody like a pastor. So I was introduced and I shook hands. And after I shake hands with that person and going, the student who was introducing me to all of them says, "Do you know who he is?" I said, "No clue." I said, "He is one of the Nobel laureates that we have in our campus." And I turned back, looking like completely down to earth, looking at who you would not have even imagined. Probably he was in his own world too. You wouldn't have imagined that there is somebody, a Nobel laureate going. Such simplicity reflecting in their very existence. Vidya vinayena shobhate. You have that knowledge, that humility becomes the immediate next expression. It is not with an arrogance that I know so much. The more and more you know, that is when we understand there is a lot more to know. It's better to empty vessels make more noise. Not applicable in this 1.5 hours. No, I had to make this point because in one of the Balvihar classes, I made that statement, and so that kid very coolly lying behind this says, Swamiji, for the past 1 hour, it's only you speaking. What to say now? Then I said, it is the overflow of fullness that is coming. I said, yeah. But remember, that which is, when once you get more and more details in a particular field, you understand that there is so much more to know. And that arrogance immediately melts away. Humility is what enables us to serve the world. The second one. The one who is confident to protect himself. The one who is confident about protecting himself is not scared of the world. He is not scared of getting tainted by the world, which gives them an extra added capacity to get into that world and serve the world. Because you know, nothing can touch you or spoil you from within. There need not be any kind of scare, fear, but service becomes imminent. The third one. Those who know how to manage themselves first alone can manage outside. Those who cannot manage themselves will not be able to manage outside. You can see it in, like, they say in my native tongue. I have heard it in different languages also. That to test if the pot of rice is cooked or not, you just have to pick one grain. And it will tell you whether that whole pot is cooked rice or not. Don't put your hand in it. You just have to pick one. When people work, okay, it is quite evident right from the way we leave our shoes. Imagine we were telling on the other Sunday that the kind of totality of the mind here can be understood by the way the shoes are kept in the rack. Especially in a public place. In the house it is a different case. Apna ghar hai. Imagine of those who have it even in their houses in a very shabby pattern. Ram Ram. The way you are wearing your clothes, the way you manage it, you get me seen. There was a Mexican student, Noel, who had joined the ashram when we were studying. And at the end of the course, we among ourselves, we are giving awards to each other. The best dhoti tire. The one who could tie dhoti in a perfect. Some of us, we were new to this dhoti, we had to constantly hold on to it. With the fear of this. Agar janda ud jaye to. We were always scared. But he would just spend an extra 5 minutes of, it is not like in a hurry. He would spend and neatly dress himself. It could be seen the way somebody is dressing, how their mind pattern is. And if there's somebody overindulges in it, also shows. their mind pattern in it. The way you dress, the way you use things, the way you interact with things. It's kind of recklessness or kind of carelessness. Totally tuned out. If you cannot manage yourself within and without, you cannot manage outside. So the one who has managed within, has a complete control within, definitely is a qualified servant, qualified to serve the world outside. Before getting qualified at the first three levels, the first thing that we feel, because it gives a kick. Kick of what? Kick of recognition and fame. That look at that person, he is ready to serve. But are you even qualified to serve? What is the qualification to serve? Have you perfected the first three stages? Then when you serve in the act of complete dedication to that Supreme, the existing vasanas get melted just like that. Individual level understood. Now at the level of an institution, at the level of a nation, at the level of a society, these four factors are still functional. I was asking in the third session, who does a menial job in this country? And then I got a beautiful answer. Swamiji, in my house I do. I said, if it is your own job that you are doing, it is no more considered as a menial job. It is when you are doing somebody else's, that is when it becomes menial. At the airports, at the public places and other places, who does this menial job? Who is the majority? People from Mexico. Is it really that difficult to seal the borders? When you can regulate, monitor with all the satellites and systems, what is happening in the Middle East, what is happening in the Far East, is it that difficult to monitor a couple of 1,000 miles and to regulate, to seal the border? It is not. And then it is something like, you see it but don't pay attention to it. They keep trickling down, they keep trickling down. For what? They come here for money, why don't we seal it off here? We need people to work at that level. Right? We need people to work at that level. There is one particular category who works at that level. There, at the higher end, there are think tanks. Don't you use that word? Think tank. The first time I was like really thinking about a tank. What does a think tank mean? A pool of highly intelligent, intellectual visionaries. They come together. They may be very poor at execution. They may be very poor in communicating, but they are very good in envisioning a grand system. They become the think tank, whether it is for society, nation, or an institution. They are the think tank. Then that whole system needs a protection. Liability insurance. It should be ensured that nothing happens to that system. So there are a lot of firewalls, a lot of virus protection for that system. The one who protects, these are called law implementers. There are different ranges. There are sometimes called cops, there are sheriffs, there are state troopers. Then there are armed forces, then paramilitary forces. They are all law implementers at different levels. They become the Kshatriya. That is the second classification. The third classification is, under this beautiful surveillance of security, protected environment, that which has been envisioned by the think tank has to be marketed and executed well. One of these cold beverages, I think it was Coke or Pepsi, one of them, had utterly failed in their first campaign attempt in the early 70s or late 60s in the Middle East to campaign for themselves. And the ad, I still remember, see, normally when we read in almost all parts of the world, we read from left to right. That's what they did. They envisioned, they had this beautiful advertisement wherein there is this person who is feeling down, low, and then comes across a can of this Coke or Pepsi and is drinking it, and then feels really pepped up. Okay. In the Middle East, when this was advertised, concept is good, but the marketing and execution was not done well. So when they advertised it, what happened? They started reading it from right to left. Somebody who's pepped up drinks this, feels low. The product may be good, what you have envisioned may be really grand, but then the execution has to be perfect. The think tank really worked hard to get Indian independence with certain motives, goals and agenda. After that was given in a golden plate. The people who are responsible for executing it, it took a while to understand how to execute. Now that they are still perfect, getting to perfection. It's a vast change that you find. You need perfect person for execution. So that is at the marketing level. They are the traders. Then, at the lowest level, for all this that is envisioned, for all this that is in a protected, secured environment, there are people at each level to function for the smoothness of each level. They are the actual backbone of the earlier three systems to exist. They are called the Shudra. I used to have a huge argument with my father. There are certain orthodox things that were expected to be done while I was growing up, and because of arrogance or adamant nature, I used to challenge father. And the way I used to ask him was, all these government workers back in India were called government servants. So I used to argue and say, actually the Shudratva starts there. Because a servant is a Shudra. You are a Shudra for the government. He used to get even more irritated with my arguments. For running a system, you need these people. The think tank, they are only handful. Whereas the people who are in the protection and the providing a secured environment, they are little larger. Larger than that are people who are at the execution level. Larger than that are people who are ensuring the smoothness at all three levels. You can't have in a particular project too many people deciding. You understand that very well, right? It becomes a hodgepodge, chaos. I say, you say, you say, I say, it becomes such a huge messy situation. You need one person, maximum two. And even if there are two, lot of kachpach. If there are two directors, you observe this infrastructure, right? Are there any time two directors for the same team, for the same segment? There can be a director, there can be a co-director, there can be a chair and not chair, a president and a vice president. There is a structure. If there are two directors for the same team, ho gaya. Nothing can be executed. So there is a structure. Now you understand the structure at the society level. Now at the cosmic level. The cosmic level, meaning before we are all born into different patterns, there are two arguments for it. One argument is Janmana jayate Shudraha Samskarat Dvija Uchyate. Janmana jayate Shudraha. As we are born ignorant. Samskarat, with the kind of polishing, samskara, to take out the vikara. We are called Dvija, twice born. Once you are already born, twice born, you are enlivened as though with values, morals and ethics. Dvija Uchyate. So this is the sequence wherein they say that anybody born is a Shudra. But then according to your tastes and temperaments, you can grow. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord says, there are two ways to decide the Varna and the Ashrama. Basically, we are talking of the Varna. Varna meaning Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. He says, Guna, Karma, Vibhagayoho. Two reasons, Guna and Karma. Karma, as a result of which you are born in that particular environment. When somebody is born in a particular environment, as it is the prarabdha of that jiva to have these two parents and that kind of an environment, so is the prarabdha of the parents to have such a kid. Now when I am using prarabdha, it need not be understood in that half smiles of yours in a negative sense. Prarabdha can be a good prarabdha or a bad prarabdha. And normally we denote it for a you are born because of your past karmas with that kind of an environment that you designed for yourself to exist in. Based on which your gunas are also formed. But then, having born there, it is the free will of each individual to stay there, go low or go higher. Who is the Adi Kavi of our literature? Valmiki is called the Adi Kavi. What was he in his Purva Ashrama? Not earlier life. Purva Ashrama. He was a well-known dacoit. Plundered, looted, sometimes threatened, killed. And Narada came by. When Narada came by, he jumped out of that hiding place and said, "Chalo nikalo." Kuch nahi hai mere paas. That reminds me of Swami Tapon Maharaj. He was going on his trek to Mansarovar, Kailas, and he was told that there are these dacoits of Tibetan region, and anybody going, because that was the main route between China, India, Afghanistan, India, Afghanistan, and that region, that pass was the main highway. A small pass, it was the highway. And these people used to loot them. So Tapon Maharaj walking all alone, and as he was walking, they stopped him at the gun point. No, it was not a gun, sword point. And quickly, abducted him, took him to a nearby cave and did a thorough search. कुछ तो छिपाया होगा, like going so alone, must have had something, some confidence that you have something on which you can survive. And they searched him twice, didn't find anything. Then after a while, he said, now I am hungry, feed me. These fellows said, first time in our life, we bring in somebody whom we have to feed. He was like bindas. He said, okay, now you're done enough searching. Now go get something for me to eat. So Narada was stopped by this Ratnakara. He said, one good thing about these Vedantins, they can speak. They're good negotiators. So he negotiated his life out, bailed himself out. He said, why do you do all this? He said, this is my responsibility. What responsibility are you talking about? Wife, children, family, household? He said, go ask your wife and children if they are ready to share the sin that you are incurring because of this particular act of yours. Stay here. So he goes, checks out, and his wife says, nothing doing. It is your responsibility to feed us, go feed. How you do it is your headache. And he comes back scratching and says, this is what my wife told you. Did I not tell you? Because it is said, whatever punya that the husband does, half of it goes to the family, wife and children. And whatever papa done by the husband, not even an ounce goes to the family, wife and children. Whereas on the other hand, when the wife does something, punya, it is between her and the kids. Husband doesn't get anything. If the wife does something wrong, half of it goes to the husband. Look at the smile on beaming smile, as justice served. होना ही था. So in spite of all this kinds of dacoit, and he must have been somebody like the Harijana or the, what do you call them, the scheduled tribe. He was in that tribes. Shudra. But then he grew from that level to become a Adi Kavi, respected, revered, prostrated by Rama himself. When Rama comes across Valmiki, he prostrates. He doesn't say, So in a system, when you are born, you have the freedom and the free will to either stay at that level or go low or go higher. Now, there are enough proofs in history wherein there are people who have grown and have been respected for it. And equally or more than enough proof to show how it can be misused. Because something gives you authority, and that authority is too lucrative to be let gone. So you keep holding on to it, and to keep holding on to it. See, this has been the case with Delhi. Not in the recent past, after independence, even before independence. Dhritarashtra, he was given the job of being a king for a temporary period. And then after sitting, till then he was good. He may have had one kind of a thought here and there. Wish I would have become a king. It was just a wish list, not a vicious list. After he was given that responsibility as a caretaker, it totally corrupted. Kissa kursi ka started there from Dhritarashtra. Dhritam Rashtram Yaha Saha, the one who is holding on to it and doesn't want to leave because of that authority, that power that it gives. So this kind of absolute power corrupts absolutely. And when misused also. Don't you find the misuse, politics, corruption, wherever there are three human beings, there can be politics and corruption. To have politics, you don't need even three, you need only two. My party, your party, our party. There can be a lot of politics. But what matters if we have to grow individually and as a society is that we need to come together, understand it and put at an individual level to grow. The second thing, when they say that you shouldn't believe in the family that you are born cannot bind you to be a Vaishya, Shudra or a Brahmana, Kshatriya. See, understand this as a sequence. In the earlier birth, whatever was the karma that we have done, we left a pattern which had to be satiated by the totality, fulfilled by the totality. Hence, therefore, we are born in that particular environment so that that particular vasana can be exhausted. Are you getting the implications of it? So balance in both kinds of understanding is required. Now in that totality, all this with all these jivas who are with the sattvika mind were at the mukha. Those who were with the sattvika but predominantly rajasika were at the kshatriya level. At the uru, those who were more of rajasic, streaks of sattvic, and enough tamasic also were the vaishya. Vaishya accumulating. That is why you find जो सेठ लोग होते हैं, they have a pot belly. As Kubera is described. Kubera is the treasurer of the gods in Devaloka. How is he described? He is described as short, bow-legged, with a pot belly, dark in complexion, having this what do you call it? Pock marks. The smallpox or chicken pox that marks on the face, very ugly pattern. And when he smiles, alternate teeth are available. One teeth up, one teeth absent down. So it just closes correctly. And his eyes were all pervading. All pervading meaning confusing. You don't know where exactly is he looking. Is he looking here, there, everywhere? It's a confusing. So he had a squint. He had a pot belly, dark in complexion. Then these people sit. और क्या कहते हैं उसको? हाँ, गद्दी तो इसे कहते हैं. इसको क्या कहते हैं? पेटी? पेड़ी. Okay. So they sit in front of that. Always sitting in front of that. The only exercise that they have is counting. So they happen to get wider range. ऊरु तदसे द्वैष्यः पद्भ्यागम शूद्रो ajayata. Shudraha are the one who are born with absolutely, probably they have the only capacity is to adapt themselves to any kind of work that they are given. No skills in particular. No particular skills that are there. But whichever form that you are born in, you can always put an effort to grow. The growth has to be substantial and real, which need not be claimed, which shall be recognized. I have raised myself to a Brahman. Nobody recognizes. If you are there, everybody will recognize it. If you are not there, so it is something which comes by when you grow. So this is how the vast multitude with the human beings with a particular structure were created. Now what happens after that? That we will see tomorrow. This is one controversial segment that we normally are blamed on Hinduism. Like in UCLA, not UCLA, in LA and those Californian counties, one of the topics that was challenged. Are you aware of that? There is something happening. One of the things that was challenged was this, the Varna Ashrama Dharma, which was very wrongly interpreted. And what was indicated there was only the caste system equaling to untouchability. But that was not the only case. There is much more to it. Anyways, so I thought it could be given its true meaning. I know in 4th chapter when we were doing it, we dealt with it quite extensively. It doesn't harm if we are refreshing again. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shant Shant Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo